We're about to film a big Necromunda campaign. I've set up, as you can see, just part of it right here, a mega interconnected table that is all sorts of different territories and zones that the three players, Josh, Skari, and Luca, are going to be playing in. I'm going to play too, but as a game master and as the male strain gene stealer player. I want to walk you through what I've already set up, what I still have to work on, and I'd love to get your advice as well, if there's anything that you'd love to see in this campaign, because we're about to start filming in a couple days. So if you leave comments soon, then I'll be able to incorporate those ideas. So let's take a closer look at the board as I explain the entire concept. You can use a lot of these ideas for campaigns at home. You might not have a big area to set up a mega table, but you can still take inspiration from the idea of having this interconnected lore in your head to make all of the games really sync together. So I've combined ideas from both the Hive Secondus and just the regular Dominion campaigns. If you're not familiar with Necromunda, the Dominion campaign is just your basic, everybody has a gang, they fight over territories, and each territory gives them different buffs. But in the Hive Secondus campaign, it's a little special because you're leaving the regular Hive and going to the doomed Hive Secondus that fell to a gene stealer cult and then was bombed and left a major, huge crater in its stead, like 100 kilometers across. So the idea here is that I've created a board where we're actually going to move through it throughout the campaign. So at the beginning of the campaign, we're going to do a free-for-all game between the three players. So Josh is going to be playing the Ironhead Squats. We are going to have Skari play the Palanite Enforcers. And then Luca, of course, is going to go Goliath, because that's his favorite, to go with the Gym Bros, like he normally does. So they've arrived on the outskirts of the Hive Secondus, still in the wastes, and they need to fight over their kind of starting settlement. So we're going to have a big free-for-all game here. I will play some third-party elements, some NPC enemies that they'll have to scuff with as well. In the end, though, the winner gets to choose between one of the three locations, 1, 2, 3, and each of them will have different benefits. Some will draw more income, some will give you other bonuses throughout the campaign. But essentially we play right here. Now to mark where their territories are owned, I actually had Ricky design these. We just took the symbols from the books. So that's the Prospectors, or the Palanites, Goliath, and then the Squats. And this is for the Malstrain Gene Stealers. I know those aren't for sale just because they use copyright stuff, so we can't really sell it, but we can just make it for use right here. And the idea is that, the Palanites, if they, for example, this will be one zone that they can own, we'll just drop that right there so that we are reminded of who owns what. And we'll have different battlefield effects as well. So the idea here is that even though we've just played on this and marked it, and then we'll split off into one-on-one games, and they're actually going to play on other sections. So they might actually reuse part of this and play here on this 4x4 board, because each of these segments is 2 feet. And typically you play on a 4-foot by 4-foot board in Necromunda. You'll notice that a panel is missing. We'll talk about that in a second. So the next one will go into kind of the outskirts of Hive Secondus. There are the few ruins that are still left standing on the outside of the huge crater. There's actually rules for fallen cranes as territories, so I thought I'd pull this one out, dust it off, and use that as well. So we'll do some 1v1 games. So we start off free-for-all, then we play 6 games that are 1v1. It works up to 6 because I'm going to be mixed in there as well, so sometimes we'll be playing against the Malstrain Gene Stealers. Now, the further we go into the campaign, the more hardcore the Gene Stealers are going to get. I'm not going to really do any spoilers here. This is just the outline of the campaign. Now, this is going to represent the descent into Hive Secondus. And so let's jump over to see what Ricky is working on. Now, we're going to have an entirely different video that just goes over this enormous hobby project. But essentially, what I asked Ricky to do was create an infinity mirror, which is not an infinity mirror quite yet, and I don't expect it to look like one. But there's a light. If you're not familiar with what an infinity mirror is, essentially it's just 2 mirrors and a one-way, or how would you describe it? There's a mirror on one side, and what's on the other side?
Like an 80% mirror.
Yeah, so like some of it goes
20%
through.
20% of the light can come up each time.
Right, exactly. And then what happens is you get a reflection back and forth, back and forth. So we'll show that later on. I guess you'll have to wait till the actual campaign and the video about this to come out. But essentially that gets repeated and stuck inside of this board, which if we look on the other side, you can see used to be this tile, which we have finally, after over a decade, taken a big hole out of and modified it. So that's going to look pretty cool. But more on that later. So that'll go right here, and then we'll finish building this table with more of the Ruins of Perdition 3D printable set. from our last Kickstarter because I think it works really, really well for this. That's what it was designed for. So this is going to be a really, really cool table. So there'll be a game played here, then a game played here. And basically the winner of each game gets to claim that territory and whatever benefits it'll give in later games. Then as they descend into the hole, they come to this abandoned and salvageable factory. So it's basically a factory that's being gutted. A gutted factory, I think is what it's called. And so there'll be a game played on here. You can see that each game kind of takes us further into Hive Secondus. And each one will have different scenarios, but we'll draw a lot of just the basic ideas of fighting and trying to loot and gain territory as they go deeper. Sometimes against each other, sometimes against the mouse train gene stealers, which are ever present. Then as they go through the gutted factory, they come to the abandoned Prometheum factory, or station, or whatever you want to call it. And this one's unique in that it's a long table rather than a normal square table. And I just wanted to set it up that way because once they work their way through that, there's also, before we get to those cool tables, we have tunnels beneath all of these boards that is being represented by these tiles right here. Now, if you haven't seen these before, this is for our upcoming Kickstarter called The Depths of Perdition. So it's you can call it an expansion set to the Ruins of Perdition, but it's not that they're meant to be used together, because this is more, you can use it in more how you'd use Zone Mortalis tiles, except they're going to have a lot more flexibility, cool bunker systems, and all sorts of other details that I'm not going to bother going here because I don't want to bore you with it. Just want to show you the details here. And this will probably end up being 2 territories to be fought over, one on each side, and each will have slightly different benefits. But typically in Necromunda, whoever owns tunnels gets to like infiltrate models, which is pretty cool. This isn't done yet either. We have more scatter terrain to put in there. But you can see where like the sides are caved in. That's where the gene stealers will be coming from and attacking people as they try to hold and take these tunnels. So after all of those games, that'll be the first half of it. So there'll be the free-for-all followed by 6 games on all these tiles. We're gonna have a second free-for-all game in the middle, and that's going to be played on these boards. Now, if you're a veteran of the channel, tell me if you recognize the first campaign that these boards were ever used in many, many years ago. Leave a comment and kind of brag if you actually know where they came from. And they have a bunch of repairs that they need, which we need to hurry up and do. We're going to do that tomorrow, which is the day before we start filming. And we also need to add some feet to it so they can stand up. Worst case scenario, we won't get to that, and we'll have them leaning like this. It's not awful. And then I need to add a bunch of scatter terrain and extra pieces to finish them off. But we're going to do a free-for-all game between the 3 players and then throwing in elements of the mouse train gene stealers. And this represents coming through the Prometheum factory and then descending into the Underhells, to the worst part. So that'll mark the halfway point in the Necromunda campaign. After that, they're going to explore the Underhells, which these 2 tiles are supposed to represent. And so we have this really cool tile, which is meant to be like a mutated jungle. I'm not going to go into details as to why it's down here as a mutated jungle. I don't want to give too many of the story points away. But you can see just using all sorts of different terrain, aquarium plants, this Micro Art Studios Tyranid stuff that Adam from Greenleaf Terrain then made these wonderful spawning pools, and just this Nurgle tree that I believe also Adam from Greenleaf, most likely he made most of our terrain. And this set of acid vaults and stuff from Game Mat, so you can get it from them, all pre-painted, and all on this beautiful table. So we actually have 2 tables here. If I could just do like a 15-second sponsor segment, I guess, that the Game Theory has sent us these tables, this one recently, and then this one right here from a while back. And they're beautiful tables. There's leaves that go on top of them. There's all sorts of extra add-ons along the magnetized areas that you can put trays and all of that. So I decided to integrate them into our Necromunda campaign because they look fantastic, and it's just a good way to do it. So if you're interested in getting one or checking them out, go to miniwargaming.com/table. That is an affiliate link, by the way. So if you do manage to buy one, make sure you use that link, because then we'll get a kickback of the percentage of what you buy. This table is incomplete. I'm not going to explain what it is, because it's going to give away some of the story. But essentially, it merges with more of the Depths of Perdition tiles, the new ones that we're talking about. You can see how there's actual tiles that are meant to come down. This originally was designed to be a trench system, but evolved into more of a wargaming tile system, like you see, to be used as rooms and underground or above ground or space stations or spaceships or whatever you want it to be. So it works really well. It just happens to be the right height, roughly, for the tiles that we already had. That was a coincidence. So I'm taking advantage of that and having this table then segue into this. I'm not going to give any more details of what happens in the second half of the campaign, just because that's spoilers for you guys and also for my players. So you can see just the overall campaign layout. It took a lot of work, a lot of time to set up all this terrain, but also just to come up with the concept of how it worked. But I love doing it. This is my favorite thing to do when it comes to narrative campaigns, is to just come up with these concepts, modify existing ones. I know when we did the More Time one, we basically just played it right out of the book. That's because it was my first time playing it, but I can't wait to do more Time campaigns where I get to use it as a storytelling vehicle rather than just playing a bunch of one-off games. I feel that these games shine the most when there's an arbitrator who is also a game master who modifies it to make it seem like you're telling a story. You don't have to do that. This would be just as fun if I set all this up and then we just played games by the book according to one of the many campaign systems they have. But I'd love to get your feedback on all of this. Is this something you're going to be excited to watch? What do I need to make sure to do to include in it in order for you to really want to watch it? And any other feedback or just comments I would love to hear below. So stay tuned for the Necromunda campaign and our Kickstarter for the Depths of Perdition at miniwargaming.com/perdition. Happy wargaming!